this Board of Education regular meeting Tuesday, July 16th, 2024 at 7:01 p.m. Can I have a roll call?
Mrs. Lala?
Here.
Mrs. Deck?
Here.
Mrs. Erbach Barnfield? Mrs. Theodore?
Here.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Here.
Mr. Berardi? Mr. Trabuzio?
Here. Please stand for the pledge of
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will need a motion to approve the agenda as modified, with the modifications being including the action items 16A11, 16A14, 16A15, and adding the name in 16A12 of Marahan Robles, and adding the name to 16A13 of Sarah Ernst. Can I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Maria, Brandy, and Molly, so.
I got Miss Theodore and I got Miss
Sure.
Lala. Okay. Miss Theodore? Mrs. Theodore?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes, the motion passes. Statement, the mission of the Village School District 80 is inspiring educational excellence in a nurturing environment. Recognition of visitors. Thank you for being here. Correspondence, I need to mention.
Nothing for me.
Public participation, I imagine there is none.
Everybody signed in?
Not for participation.
FOIA request, there is one. It could be reviewed and published in the website, or School District 80 website. Board committees, education, board policy development. Nothing to report. Building and ground will be touched on, as it usually is in Mrs. Guzik's discussion items. Behavioral intervention, nothing to report. Negotiations and human resources, nothing to report. Finance. We will review the 24 budget results and operations and 25 budget. Would you like to?
This is where I will be doing this presentation.
Do you want me to stand up there?
Whatever you want to
All right.
If you want to sit, then that's fine.
So we're gonna look at the results of our operations. Then we're gonna go over the budget calendar quickly. And then when we go, after we go over the budget calendar, we're gonna talk about the things that we do when we're creating the budget, the fiscal guidelines that we keep in mind, the budget considerations we have, and what our next steps are. So this is kind of small, but everybody should have a PDF of it also. This is the results of our operations, but they have not been audited yet. There are always slight changes during the audit, nothing crazy, but some slight changes. So we did better than we thought we were gonna. We definitely did not have to amend the budget. And we did better really everywhere than we first had projected. Like in the ed fund, we had projected, or in the budget, we had a $40,000 deficit. We ended up with a little over $500,000 in excess of revenue. So that was good. If you look in operations and maintenance and you see the 400,000, that's the resolution that you guys approved earlier in the year for the transfer from O&M to 60 to do some of the projects we're doing. Transportation, we did have a deficit spend, but we knew we were gonna have that, and it's okay, because we've had a higher fund balance, we've been trying to spend it down, so it's okay. Working cash, we had only budgeted 50,000 in working cash. The high amount that you see there that we had in revenue, 106, that's actually mostly from interest. Because we still had a high interest rates this year for all of our money that we had out, so that's a positive. That actually, across the board, our revenue was higher in a lot of places because of interest from our investments that we had out. Debt services, that large revenue that's in there is that bond that we had talked about earlier in the year. So it is abnormal to see such a high revenue in debt service, but that's what we had talked about earlier. And then capital projects, there's a large deficit, but we had to spend the remainder of the bond. So we had planned for that and we knew that was gonna be. And that will probably continue to be as we continue to do projects. We'll probably continue to have a deficit in there. But overall, so far, we're really happy. The auditors were out on Friday for a preliminary audit. They'll come back the first week of August for the main audit, but they were really happy so far. They had 4 people, so they actually got all that done, but the bigger parts will be first week of August. So for the budget calendar, my first question is for both the tentative and the final budget, do you guys want to do that like how we're doing right now during the board meeting? Do you want to have a half-hour earlier meeting? What do you want for that?
Definitely,
We typically look at an August meeting for that, right?
Yeah,
And that's what we did last year, right?
Yeah.
Like a finance
Prior.
yeah.
And then a September meeting, we don't have to have a separate one, we just have to have the hearing.
Correct.
do we think, we could just do 7 o'clock and just insert it in August?
And start the regular meeting at 7:30 then? Or have a,
Or insert it,
oh, okay.
so then we would just run it like we are right now.
Yeah.
But,
And then invite Alan and Mr. Panelist.
I mean, does anyone think 6:30 though is better to start earlier to,
Does that matter?
I think,
Fine.
or 7 o'clock?
The August meeting, we invite all the new teachers, so typically we ask the board to come at 6:30, just to have that little informal half an hour we do cake, we meet the new teachers.
And isn't it the day before the day after school
The
starts?
20th of August.
Yeah, school starts the 21st, right?
The day before.
Well, we'll be here at 6:30 to do that, and then we'll have to just start the meeting at 7, and we'll just put this in the meeting 7 p.m.
Okay, so tentative budget, 7 p.m. on August 20th?
So we'll go over to August 20th, and then, same thing in September, we'll have the public hearing. Are you gonna go over to September then?
So when we were preparing this presentation, we realized we don't have the amount of days that are required between having the tentative meeting and the hearing, the public hearing. So we can move our regular board meeting to the 4th week. We can go a couple days later in that meeting date, because I think the board meeting in September is the 18th?
17th.
Thank you, 17th, so we would have to move to Friday of that week, or we can go down maybe to the 30th of September and move our board meeting there, because we are required to have 30 days in between the tentative budget and the public hearing for it to be in
September 24th, no?
display.
Yeah, the 24th.
Oh, sorry, I looked at the wrong date, thank you, 24th. Perfect, 24th is what I thought, and I looked wrong. That would just be the board agreeing to change the date, we just need to move it and make sure it's on the website, and so we're being transparent.
I will be on vacation the 24th. I planned it around the 3rd week.
Oh, no.
To be honest with you, when we found this, we should have, it's our fault, we should have seen this when we planned the 2-year calendar, I don't know why we
It's
didn't
okay.
see this. We should have already had a conversation about, or we can move the August meeting to a week earlier. You know, we
That
can
might
move
be
it.
nice, given that it's right now scheduled the night before the first day of school. But I might be the only one with like time limited, that makes a difference for it.
Yeah, but we can look at August 13th.
I will be,
Yeah, I have that does sound like a good idea, but I can't do the 13th.
Do you wanna look at a different day that week, like moving it off of a Tuesday? Although I know you guys have other family commitments that you
I'm
usually
back on the
hold
15th.
a meeting for. Could you attend a meeting on the 15th?
I fly in.
No, that would be really close, yeah. You can have it at the airport. We can go with you. Or just-
Wait, where are you going?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Greece.
I'm
in
gonna
Greece.
What is can't do September 17th, what's the first possible date? That makes 30 days?
Right.
Correct.
Actually, the 19th,
19th.
right?
It's the 31st.
Because
Yep, there's
it's
31 days.
Mhm.
So the 19th would be a Thursday. Actually, what's interesting is I'm looking at my calendar and I have the board meeting on the 19th of September.
Huh.
So I'm wondering if that's even what we have,
Does anybody have,
and I don't realize that.
anyone have commitments on the 19th
I'm gonna look at the calendar on
of September?
the calendar that we have posted online.
You said the 19th does clear the 30 days.
No, we have it the 17th, so I'm not sure why I have that.
Does anybody, do we think we can pull out the 19th September, Thursday?
That's fine.
Okay, let's try for
Thursday, September 19th. I'm gonna just put a consent item then next month that we approve that change, and then we'll change it on that.
Okay.
Is that everything on this one?
Yeah. Okay, so the fiscal guidelines that we always have is, maintain 33% reserves. And quickly looking at where we ended in the operating funds and what I have in the budget so far, we are still at about 43% reserves, which we were last year. So that's good. We're working towards a balanced budget, and we're gonna continue to monitor and evaluate special funding, which are mostly our grants. So the general assumptions that we have are that, property and taxes are gonna increase by 3.8%. Evidence-based funding will increase by 30,000. Fees, in kindergarten tuition will remain the same, and we know, the teacher salary increased at 3.25%, and we know that the paraprofessionals have a new structure. So those are our main assumptions. For staffing adjustments, we're adding a 1.0 FTE for a writing teacher at Giles. We're adding our student services coordinator, that's Giles and Lee, and that's partially grant funded. We're adding the STEAM teacher at Lee, which is 100% grant funded. And that's actually more of a replacement for the library media teacher we had. And we're gonna look at additional staff for student needs. Next year, one of the things we have, which is gonna cause a large increase in our budget, is we have multiple students who need a one-on-one nurse. So things like that are outside of our control, and we have to budget for them. So we're looking at about 2.5 nurses that are one-on-one. which will be a large increase to our budget. So there are some items like that that are additional staffing needs that are for students that we cannot control. The grants that we do have for next year though are the Preschool for All grants, the school-based mental health, which provides us with one of our social workers that'll continue next year, the computer science equity grant here at Lee, which is how we're getting the STEAM teacher, and a bunch of wonderful STEAM supplies that we're very excited for. Cures will go through December, so we'll still be able to do some of the after-school activities that we've been doing through December. ESSER 3 is going to be ending. At this point, that's mostly the last little bits of the chillers and the install for the chillers. And then there'll be a little bit of staffing in there, but not actual people. So maybe it'll be, we'll see once this last expenditure report goes through. More like after school type things. The IDEA grant, and then we have Title 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're still waiting on the last two, the Giles infrastructure and the stronger connections. But we do have plans for those in place, and we'll budget for them because we're hoping that they're gonna come through, and we'll be ready for them once they come. And then future considerations that like we have to think about when we work on this next year budget and what we do have in reserves and all the saving we've been doing is at the end of this year, we're gonna have to go out to bid for special education transportation. We're gonna have to go out to bid for cleaning. We're gonna be doing negotiations for the new teacher contract beginning FY26. And even though that's just the teaching and the CBA staff, it does really impact all of the staff then, once we see what the CBA members get. In FY28, we're no longer gonna be able to charge for tuition, and CPI is gonna continue to drop. So we went from last year, where CPI was 5%, we levied for a little over 7, because we wanted to capture all the new construction. I have a draft of what we got, so I don't wanna share it yet, but we fared well, better than we thought we would. But that's gonna be the last time that happens for a very long time. So that's why I shared with all of you what we received from PMA regarding CPI. Because this year when we do the levy, it'll be 3.4, but we think we'll get 3.8 base with the new construction, and that's gonna continue to drop. The year after, we're probably gonna be looking at somewhere like a 2.5% increase. So once we're getting all the new special education transportation cleaning bid, new teacher negotiations, these new higher bills we're gonna have and loose kindergarten tuition, our CPI with our tax money is gonna go down. So while we've been doing well and we've been saving, we might need some of that in the next couple of years. So it's just to be mindful of when we do the budget.
One thing on this page I'd like to note, the special education transportation and the facilities cleaning bid, we could decide to extend both of those. Transportation, now they're saying you can extend up to 10 years. So we could. We're gonna have to look at, sometimes it's good to go to bid even if it's the same company, just to be able to get a more competitive price. So we'll look at both of them. One of the things I do think is interesting, the facilities cleaning bid, which is citywide, they have the ability to go up to CPI on their increase, and they only did a 3% increase this year. Now, I don't know, so they got it done 5. I don't know if that was a good faith to try to continue working with us. Because when we did meet with citywide, I did mention like we're gonna be going out to bid, and they were like, oh no, you don't wanna do that. So those two things we will keep looking at. The special education transportation bid also was only a 3% increase. So we'll take a look at those and see. But like I said, sometimes it's better to go out to bid and see what you get. It's just whatever you get, you have to go with. Could be good, so we'll decide that. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Oh, that's fine. Anybody have any questions?
This is good.
Thank you.
Board committee communications, Patty, do you have anything you want to add?
I
received the financials from Maui earlier today.
2 hours ago.
So I'll be drafting the newsletter and I'll share it out with the team.
Yeah, we can talk about a couple of those things.
Yeah.
They look good? Thank you for doing
I
that.
do have a request. Can we include, if not this one, the next, a review of how very brief, how preschool started up, how it's grown, how many classrooms it's at now? Because I think, I don't think anybody knows that much.
Isn't the first one they sent out was the whole preschool?
Was about the build out more
Yeah.
so.
Build out, maybe just touch
She
on,
had like a
like,
little paragraph about it.
maybe just touch on, its growth, and, you know, has there been classrooms, it serves this many students, just to follow up some more on it. That's good. Norwich Park District, nothing to report. Discussion items.
Before I begin the discussion items, I didn't have any admin reports this month, you noticed. They're working very hard. July is actually a really hard working month for us. No one is off in July, everyone is working, and they are doing a lot. I just figured let's start fresh with them, let's give them a month off, let's give us a month off and let's start fresh in August. So on the agenda tonight for me, the usual things, I want to highlight our back to school events, which will be sending out all the flyers at the end of this week in our welcome back packet. August 19th is Lee's back to school event. That is also doubles as the supply drop off meet your teacher night. We kept that at Lee and we kept that early at Lee. This allows the parents to come in, meet the teachers before that first day of school on August 21st. We didn't feel that was as important to have that meet the teacher time because like 5th grade who's moving up from 4th grade to 5th grade did have an opportunity at 5th grade to fly up. Everyone else is mostly returning. Dr. Rabiola and Mr. Biecki will have an event for new people to the district to walk them around and allow them to see. So we're much more comfortable with moving the Giles curriculum event and keeping that as a curriculum night, so parents can learn about the curriculum and what standards are being covered in their classes. So we moved that to September 5th this year. In between those two events, on August 24th, this is confirmed, our preschool community build for both phase 1 and phase 2 of playgrounds will happen on that day. Start early in the morning. We will also get that information out in our welcome back information that's going out. Very excited about that. There's a little bit of pre-work for that, which the company will be coming in and doing. They did donate what they felt was in the one area, if you remember with the little houses, the footings are very close together. So they didn't want to just put that right straight through the asphalt and then put the cover over that because they just didn't feel like that was as sturdy. So they're gonna rip out a piece of the asphalt, they're gonna concrete it, and then they're gonna put the footings on top of that, and then we'll put the pouring place over that. And they actually donated that, we weren't paying for it. And then on September 13th, I hope it's the annual back to school event. It is at Lee, however, it is open to the whole district. I'm sure you'll be hearing more and more about this. This was a great event last year with food trucks and
The dunk tank?
oh, the dunk tank was great. I don't know if it's back, but it was great. These guys did a great job in it over here. Getting dunked. We had a bunch of teachers, most of our admin team. If you recall, I was not in it because no one wanted to dunk me. And so, no one wanted to do it. Yeah, just declaring out things. You'll be the first one with the balls.
That's right.
But it was a great event, so that will continue. We do have tonight in the consent agenda a building rental request. This is a Ukrainian school that has been functioning in a basement. Now they're looking at 65 to 80 students. They had 65, they're going to be growing to 80 students first through 6th grade. And they are requesting to use Giles on Saturdays. I have not worked out exactly the schedule of what time they're coming in because I've asked the Polish school who's there currently right now for their final schedule and they haven't given it to me yet. So I'd like to offset the times and offset like the gym use and things like that because they they do both have programs, so graduations, things like that. We would put them in the 8th grade wing of Giles. I did walk them through Giles, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. They're very happy with the space. They'd be on the 2nd floor with 7 classrooms and the 1st floor with 2 classrooms for a total of 9 classrooms. They will provide the insurance if they're approved. We would be charging the same that we're charging the other rental, which is $65 per classroom per week. We do currently have 2 members from Citywide on Saturdays that are doing some deep cleaning and are there in the building. So at this point, I don't know the times, but I don't anticipate the cleaning to be an increase. This does require board approval, as you recall, any new rentals. I do recommend that we approve them. I feel they seem to be a great bunch of people. They understand. I went through all the rules with them, actually several times. I think they understand everything. We also don't, we don't fool around on that. If it doesn't work out, we kick them out. We're not having the building in jeopardy.
Do they know about the Polish school?
We do.
Okay,
And the Polish school knows about that.
okay.
I did give them a call just so they were comfortable with it too, because we'd be respectful to our. They just didn't want them to be another Polish school,
Oh,
which I understand.
Yeah.
So I do have that in consent. If you want more information on this one or want to pull it on a consent, we can do that as well if you're not ready to approve that. Any questions about that one? This is the individual you spoke with. I don't know,
Yeah.
were you at some noise events?
The wreath laying at Memorial Day, some park trustees had been Miller, one of them next door neighbor, this woman was heading up his Ukrainian school. And she was still looking, you explained that she had visited and
She did.
seen, but maybe back then she thought it wasn't a deal she could do, and then she came back and now she's able to work with District 8.
I think they've been growing their program and they have more students
Yeah,
now. And now
probably.
they can't work in the space that they're in. They're working in a basement with some dividers and it's just not working.
That's it.
So I think I mentioned this a little bit last month, but officially in the consent tonight, asking for board approval is the lunch bid for 24-25. This bid is a process now that has to be approved every step of the way through the Illinois School Board of Education, which it has. They have given final approval for Gourmet Gorilla. I'm sorry, I missed their name there. Gourmet Gorilla has been providing lunch for us up to this point. They were our only bidder. We did have another company show up for the pre-bid meeting, but they never ended up putting in a bid. I know we're a small district, so I think
I
that's
was
why.
gonna ask if that's weird.
No, I was really surprised they didn't because they're doing some other small districts in the area, so we were actually surprised. So the details, we were getting charged $4.37 for lunch before this contract. They are now proposing $5.50, which is not something that we can negotiate down in this bid process. We were charging families $3.91, so I'm suggesting that we haven't moved up the cost of lunch in 3 years. I am suggesting we moved it to $4.35. There is a difference there, but part of that difference will get made up because they are now going to employ both the servers. And you may recall one of the servers last year, the one at Giles, was employed by the district. So now Gourmet Gorilla will employ both of them, which is great because then they guarantee that if someone is sick or someone can't be there, that a replacement will be there, or Mr. Biecki will have to serve food, as he's done in the past. He did get his license, so he's ready. Yeah, he did. So that would need board approval.
Will that be the same lunch people? Okay.
Same lunch people. Now, if the individual is running it, I don't know at this point. I know they were gonna offer the two ladies. If they're working, I don't know. That's,
Okay.
now the personnel's in their hands. I would love both of them to come back, but I thought they were both great people. They knew us and they know the kids. So we know, and we have in our planning of the budget, we're gonna have to subsidize this. I can't charge families $5.50 for lunch. So this, when we spoke about this process, I think we have one of two options at this point. Well, three. We can continue with Gourmet Gorilla and move on every year, and that's what we do for the next 3 years with 2-year options for 1 year at a time. We can look at moving the whole district to free lunch, which Union Ridge just did this year. If you hit a certain threshold with your percent of free and reduced, you can apply for what's called community. And then anyone that gets lunch it's through the National School Lunch Program. So that's one option. The other option is we can pull out of the National School Lunch Program and we can offer our own program, which would require us to hire someone to run something like this. But what we can do is take the commodities that we would be offered. Right now, commodities go, mostly to the lunch company. But we can take more commodities and we can then provide a lunch that meets the standards of what healthy lunch needs to be. But then we can also provide grab and go things. We can provide chips, we can provide water, like things for students to purchase. I'm not sure that's something that we'd want to do at Lee, but it's certainly something we can do at Giles. And then we would not be receiving any money back from the National School Lunch Program. However, if a bag of chips cost us 60 cents, we're going to charge $1 for it. And then that's how we're going to subsidize making the money. However, and we do still need to provide lunch, even though we're not part of the National School Lunch Program, that's just the reimbursement part, we still need to provide lunch for anyone who does qualify for free lunch. And I'll go through those numbers later in my presentation. So we're gonna take this year and kind of look at all options and plan out what we think would be best for us. Certainly moving to community free lunch is a good option. Anyone gets lunch, it's an easy reimbursement. Tammy does the reimbursement. You go in there and you reimburse from the state. It's actually a pretty easy reimbursement. The issue is we can't offer something a grab and go in addition to that. It doesn't work. The state doesn't allow you to do that. The problem, as those of you that have a junior high student or have been there, you know that the junior high students get the same lunch kindergartner gets. Exactly. So there's not enough food often. So how to battle that would be to pull out of NSLP, give our own lunch, which most likely would mean students that are free and reduced will get a cheese sandwich, a bag of chips, and some kind of fruit, not a hot lunch every day, which you can do. And then students would be able to order things from there. So we're gonna take some time to research that and see where we wanna go. This does have board approval on the consent item tonight. Just wanna give you an update on registration for 24-25. As you might recall, our registrar is now working 12 months. So we are checking very, very closely every single residency form that's coming in. Not saying we weren't before, but we're definitely doing a due diligence now. So I want to remind everyone, they must upload full residency documentation. Form D, which is the form that tells you what to upload, always will be blank. People call and say, why is my residency blank? It's always, always, always going to be blank. Now, these numbers are tough to see. Here we are a month away from school. We have 381 kids that have successfully finished the process, and we have 776 who have completed forms without full residency documentation. So that means that Tammy has reached out to those families and said, no, your residency is not completed. They now need to continue putting in more paper, which could be their driver's license, could be living with form. We have quite a few families who are living with residents, so it could be things like that she puts through. She will also meet with families. If they don't want to upload their documents, they can come in and meet with her here at Lee. She is working all summer. So we're working on that. And what you want to look at when you know your registration is complete is Form K. Form K is registration complete. If that's been approved, then everything is approved. So if you look out at yours and you see Form K is not approved, then you're missing something right now. She is up to date on checking everything. In that same idea, just give you an update on current enrollment. We have 66 preschool students that are currently enrolled. We do have a wait list of out-of-district students. We will not enroll out-of-district students probably till the end of September, beginning of October, because there is the ability to give priority to in-district students first. What the grant requires us to do is have 80% of the 100 students by November 1st. So we're pretty close. So we have a screening on August 21st, and then we have another screening, I wanna say it's September 13th, I think. And then we'll sit down and see about the out-of-district students. Kindergarten, we have 47 full-day students, 17 half-day students currently enrolled, and 17 new students. That 17 new students is low right now, the majority of them are in first grade. But that's gonna go up as people start to get closer and start to come in and enroll. So going back to registration, I really feel we need some financial incentive, either a late registration fee or a early bonus registration, like people complete registration by a certain date, because we opened registration in April. I mean, the ability to be out there to register has been there since April, and people just haven't completed it or put in the correct information. And just to remind everyone, the joint annual conference, which used to typically be called III because it's the Illinois State Superintendent Association, the Illinois Association of School Boards, that's you, and then the Illinois Association of School Business Officials. Those three together, III. That is November 22nd through 24th, which is the week before Thanksgiving at the Hyatt Regency Chicago. It's at a bunch of different hotels down there. But if you aren't interested in that, please let Eileen know and we can get you registered. That registration just opened July 1st. District policy update. We are doing District Policy 115 on first read. Did anyone have any questions about that? Mostly footnotes. Nothing I felt I even needed to point out separately to you. But I did give you the sheet that had the changes. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Policy 6.190 is the extracurricular fees policy. Upon looking at this policy, this was never changed to include our current practice of taking fees before an activity, so athletics, academics, sports. So I did update it with that language as well as band. That is for approval tonight, and then we'll start. I'm gonna skip over really quickly to outstanding fees, because my follow-up, you had asked me a couple of questions last month about this. This is where we are in 23-24 fees. We've got about $4,000 in since our last meeting. And there's $2,034, Ms. Beck, I think that was you that asked on band fees. What was banned in that? There are 8 individuals.
For the band.
Correct.
But these had to have been individuals that fully participated.
Correct.
And then now
And it's just.
we made that change, right?
Tonight you'll approve that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that won't happen anymore. And that has worked. I'll tell you, the kindergarten and preschool parents have all paid by that December cutoff. And I think that $2,800, that works. And it gives them time, plenty of time. You know, kindergarten started registration in February, so they could have been February, March, April, May, June, all those months they could have been paying.
So can I ask for the band?
Yes, ma'am.
It falls just like the curriculum, right? Once they get to 8th grade.
Correct. We have in the past year since I've been in this position collected all our 8th grade curriculum fees and all our fees. From anybody, everybody. And we've had, some people with $2,000 or $3,000 and they pay it. Buildings and grounds, quick update on that. The classrooms, in 1st and 2nd grade, the classrooms are the ones that are getting the makeover. the painting is finished, the furniture has been ordered, the lights are gonna be going in, they removed all the sinks, kind of built those cabinet structures to put all the piping away, then they'll be rolling in some storage. The intercoms have been ordered and the clocks. So those rooms will look really great. Our Buildings and Grounds Committee, the help that we hired, the temporary help, the high school, college kids, amazing. They were doing such a great job. They love painting, so it's really great. Outside maintenance is being maintained. Both schools look very good. Obviously the storm has caused some debris, but they are working on collecting all of that. Lee Halls have almost all been painted. The east floor, as you recall, this was the floor that we had a lot of water damage prior to putting in the epoxy and the deep sewer in the courtyard. So that had mixed match tile. We have taken all that tile up. This is day 2 of the grounding down, and they'll be epoxying that floor. It's gonna take about 2 weeks for that whole process to be finished. Citywide has already cleaned those classrooms, so once that's done, this is all working on clockwork. The furniture should come in the next week and get delivered. Lake Shores, who we ordered the furniture from, they'll bring a team of like 30 people. They have to and put it all together first, which they'll do in the gym, and then they'll move it all around. It's about $230,000 in furniture that we ordered. But it is expensive, but note it's lifetime guaranteed. In fact, Dr. Rabiola had an issue with a table already from the kindergarten and fixed perfectly, so.
Way to test it.
Yeah. The alarm locks we're starting the project right now. In fact, the company that's installing them started yesterday. I think they started with the first grade hallway. I saw them today in the kindergarten hallway. They've got about 4 or 5 people installing all the alarm locks. So by the time we start school, we should have all the alarm locks in both buildings will be in place. So that'll be like what's on this door over here. And then every teacher will be issued a new fob. And we will be able to 100% close down the building, lock it down, everything, which is great. We also have, Eileen is working on improved signs. The fire and the police department want our signs on the windows to be reflective material. So we're gonna have to put all new signs out on all of our windows, and we're looking at signs outside of all of our doors. So Eileen is working on that project as well. Oh, and we were able, this is actually really exciting, in the epoxy area, so the epoxy is running from, if you remember where the stairs are between 8 and 18, that door, that one way goes to the courtyard and one way goes to the south lot, that's where the epoxy picks up, and it runs all the way to the preschool, our preschool area. So that comes in door 7 right off the field. Eileen worked with Speedy Print on a beautiful, it's about an 8-foot decal that's gonna be epoxied in, that has welcome, and it says Lee School, and has a big paw in the middle.
That's
That's gonna be really nice.
nice.
Yeah, Eileen had worked really hard on that, many revisions. She did a great job. I'm getting it just to look perfect, at the words and the paw and the font, it looks great. It's gonna be great. So they're gonna put that in before they put the final layers of the epoxy over it, and it's gonna be there forever. So don't change the name of the school. Or the paw. Lunch and fee waivers. So on July 1st, the state of Illinois sends us a file. Typically they send us a second file on July 15th, but we haven't received anything yet. This is what's called the directly certified file. So this file lists the student names who are qualified for either SNAP or TANF, and then who qualify for Medicaid. Currently, right now, the state has our district at the low income of 44%. I think we're gonna see that come up. We'll probably end up this year. This is what our school report card has on it, which is kind of a year in the rears. I would not be surprised if we're in the 60% going forward. So the SNAP and TANF, 170 students qualify for that, which we waive fees and we provide lunch. so put them part of NSLP. That's being loaded into Pushcoin right now, so the fees are ready to go. You hit a button and everyone will receive their Pushcoin fees. However, we want to get all the waivers in first. So we were waiting for the July 15th date because that's usually when the state drops a second file. Like I said, they haven't yet. If they haven't sent us a second file by the end of the week, we're just gonna push all the fees out because we need to get them out. There are 259 students who qualified for Medicaid. You might remember last year, the board made a policy change that we did only provide lunch, which we legally have to, for students with Medicaid, and we did not provide waivers any longer for students with Medicaid. The National School Lunch Program will reimburse us for lunch. The district receives no reimbursement for school fees. That's just what it is. I think that's a thing that people think we receive some reimbursement for that, but we don't. So we have to, when we budget for that, we have to plan for a percent. So if I run the numbers right now, and if the fee's $250 times 100 is 70, it's $42,500 that we know is not gonna come in on fees. In addition to that, there are some people that provide paper copies. In order to get a waiver with a paper copy, you have to show me. And those are approved through me. Tammy approves anything through lunch because they have to be separate. Can't be the same people approving them according to the state. That's just to let you know if we have anything to add, I'll keep you updated. Outstanding fees that we just went through. August meeting, so we're gonna change the date. Nope, this is still the 20th, excuse me. 6:30, we do invite all new staff, so if board members could attend, that would be great. Meet our new staff. At that time, we will also have our outplace facility agreement. So any outplaces that we have students at therapeutic schools, that is something that the state of Illinois actually does decide how much they can charge. And then puts that through to us. It's a little later, some reason it comes in August, I'm not sure why. The tentative budget, and then any additional staff that we need to hire at that point. We are still looking for some paras, special education paraprofessionals and title paraprofessionals, I believe, and a preschool paraprofessional. We were hoping to have some names today to submit to you, and that's why I put those placeholders that Mr. Trabuzio pulled off at the beginning of the meeting. However, just getting paraprofessional licensure figured out and finished didn't happen. And that's it.
I'm gonna mention
The SRO idea as far as,
we know that.
I got
that is
it. So we have a safety meeting with the police department, fire department on Thursday. I do know at this moment that Chief Goss does not have an individual hired that can take over for another individual, that then we can have an SRO start in the fall. However, I am gonna speak with them about if we can hire some police officers overtime to come for like the first 2 weeks and just help with traffic. If we can get people into a routine with traffic, those first 2 weeks, I think that will help. That first day in traffic is hard. And if people need to figure out like where they're meeting, how they're doing this, where they're dropping off. It will help Lee that the preschool's starting at a different time, so it does pull, 20 kids, 60 of those kids at a different time. And if a family has any issue with that, they should contact us and we'll figure out how to help them. So I'm gonna talk to him about that. Last time we talked about this was in the spring. He said he didn't have anyone that was willing to do the overtime. I'm hoping new year, new time, maybe we'll get some numbers that will come. Because it does work out well after their shift or before their shift with our end and our beginning.
What kind of window of time would that be?
So over at Lee, if they're here, 3:05 is when dismissal is. If they're here a little before that, probably 2:30 would be the best, so an hour, 2:30, 3:30 would be best. Over at Giles, it would be like a 2:15, 3:15. Because people arrive here at 2:15. Like if you're in the parking lot, which there have been times when I'm gonna go over to Giles at 2:15 and I can't get out to get to Giles. Because people are already pulled in. He's hoping that by January, that they will have someone for us. we have budgeted for that, so we will have the funds ready for an SRO officer. I know we're tentatively, in the tentative budget, we haven't finished the budget yet, but we did put it in there. So we would use that line item for the overtime of the police officer, since we don't have anyone in that safety line item. Thank you for reminding me of that. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda. I need a motion to approve 12A through 12K. Lauren and Maria?
Mrs. Erbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes, the motion passes. Any board comments? No. Need a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, collective negotiating matters, and review of closed session minutes. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Amanda and Lauren?
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Erbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes, motion passes.
And Mrs. Deck, yes.
Mrs. Deck, I'm so sorry.
Skipping around.
I apologize.
Okay, we will, where do we meet?
We're gonna meet here.
We're to stay here at 7:53, let's just do 8 o'clock.
So hurry up.
We are now back in open session at 9:18. Moving along. Your action item. Consider motion to approve memorandum of understanding Norwich Education Association of Teachers for contract position. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Amanda and Molly, roll call please.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Erbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes, the motion passes. B, consider motion to approve superintendent's goals for the 24-25 school year. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Amanda, Fanny, any discussion about that? Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mrs. Erbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes, the motion passes. 16, personnel action items A1 through B6. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Lauren, Maria, roll call please.
Mrs. Erbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes, the motion passes. Board meeting reflection.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
That's okay, don't be sorry.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:21.
Motion.
Second.